Hello guys and welcome back to FXQ YouTube. This will be episode 2 of Python programming from Hello World to full-scale applications. In this episode, we will talk about variables. As many of you probably know what a variable means, either you learned it from math or from science, and a variable in Python is basically the same thing as a variable in math or science. It's basically a letter or a word used to represent a value that could be any value, could be any mathematical value. But the thing that's different in Python is that a variable in Python doesn't have to be a numerical value. It could also be a word or even a sentence or anything that's recognized by the Python code. And that means that you could use a letter to represent not only numerical values, but also something of the English language. So that's pretty neat. And another thing that's different is that in Python you don't actually have to use a letter to represent the variable. You could actually use a word to represent the variable or anything you would like, as long as the Python code recognizes the variable as a variable. So you could actually just type in, for example, variable as a variable. You don't have to type in like V or A or Z like you would doing math or science. And you could just type in the entire word as a variable and it will recognize that code as well. So that's pretty neat. Anyways, without further ado, let's get right into how to write variables in Python. So the first thing I would like to teach you is a variable type in Python called int variable, which is basically represented by any letter or words. For example, right now I could type in x equals 0, and that will represent an integer value, which will be 0. Actually, let me change that, 1. Let's change it to 1. So in this case, the variable x will represent the value 1. And that's the int variable. And now if you print the value, the variable x, it will actually print the integer or numerical value of 1, which is, that's how integer variables work in Python. However, there is also another type of variable that is, doesn't function the same as integer variables and is not exactly incorporated from math or science. Is just something that's unique with the programming language. So another thing that you can actually represent with a variable is, like I said, something of the English language. And for example, right now I could write word equals word, and that would be a string variable in Python. And what a string variable does in Python is it prints out something that is of the English language rather than something that's a mathematical expression. So for example, if right now I say print word, print a variable word, it will print out the word. That's a pretty funny sentence, but you get the point. And so yeah, that's a string variable. And a unique concept is that you could actually make an integer variable in Python into a string, or you could make a string variable in Python into an integer. That's the thing that you could do. For example, right now I could type in str, which stands for string in Python, equals str. Actually, no, it should be a bracket. Str bracket I. Actually, I will make that str bracket x because in this case our integer is x. So what that will do is it will actually make the integer x, the integer variable x into a string. And then I could do int word, which actually will make the string variable word into an integer variable in Python. And then I could print x and then print word, and then it should print out the string version of x and the integer version of word. And now let's teach you another new concept, which I actually did in the last episode, but never explained how it works. So, for example, I could do something that's a variable. For example, y equals input something. Please enter your name, for example. And what that will do is it will take the input as a variable, and then you could do print the variable, which will then print the input of the user, which is actually a pretty useful concept in Python because by doing that you can output something that the user inputted or interpret something that the user inputted into the system without messing up the code, because a variable could determine what input it is or which input it is if you have multiple inputs. And the reason why we often use variables for inputs is because if you have multiple inputs, right, and then you do print input, the Python system won't know which input it is. So it's better to use a variable in this case. Anyways, let's see if our code works. Hopefully it works. Actually, guys, I checked the code, and actually is one thing that you can do. You can make the string word into an integer, because the string variable word in Python right now is our what we've inputted is the actual word, which is which is a word of the English language, right? And the thing is, with integer variables in Python, you can't put anything else into the variable except for integers or numerical values. And therefore, if you convert the string word into a integer word, then it, it's not gonna work, because the integer variable doesn't have any numerical values in it. So in this case, we'll just have to delete it, unfortunately, because it won't work that way. But yeah, you can still keep a string x, because x will work as a string either way, because one could also be like one in the English language, so that works. Okay, let's run this now. There we go, it worked. See, it printed out a 1, and then it printed out a word, and then it printed out 1, which is what it's supposed to be printed out after you enter those variables into the system. And here you see the input is also here. Please enter your name, just like how we made it to be. And yeah, so it does work. And this program is how you could enter variables into the game, right? And now I could type in fans just for the entertainment of it, and you can see it actually printed fans. So yeah, it does work, and it actually works perfectly. So this is how you enter variables and use variables in Python. Hopefully you learned a lot from this video, and if you like the video, please like and subscribe, of course, and see you next time.